Welcome to the Liberty Podcast with Clint Armitage. We are proclaiming liberty one show at a time, and the next one starts right now. Our soldiers died for your freedom. God gave us all rights and never leave them. It's time to step up for your freedom. So rally up now, this is America. Our soldiers died for your freedom. God gave us all rights and never leave them. Now it's time to step up for your freedom. So rally up, this is America. All right, thanks for coming back, everybody. It's the Liberty Podcast, and I'm Clint Armitage, your host. Today's podcast is entitled Real Faith on Fire. The reason why it's called that is because to have real faith, it has to be able to withstand fire, fiery trials, things that test your faith. Real faith really comes out when it's tested, right? And also you see faith that is not real faith come out too when it's tested. You find out the people that have real faith make it through fiery trials because they are trusting that God has allowed it. They are trusting that God is going to bring them through it, right? So real faith on fire. Now, you know, I've heard, well, I actually just saw a couple articles that caught my attention. One was from about a week ago, but it's coming up to a deadline that's approaching on December 18th, and that's the Los Angeles firefighters. So the city of Los Angeles said, hey, firefighters are basically all city workers. You need to be vaccinated. This was in October. They had to be vaccinated. Then they extended it to December 18th, so now it's coming up in a few days. Just in a few days here, it's coming up. Well, last week, there was 113 firefighters that were basically put out administratively without pay. Okay. They are not getting paid, and 113 of them. And now it's approaching that deadline, December 18th, to be vaccinated. Otherwise, they are going to presumably fire them. That's what it kind of looks like. So I'm not sure. It was about a week ago, and I'm not sure if that same number is exactly 113 anymore, because I'm sure it's going to fluctuate just a little bit, just depending on if people go get vaccinated or not, or, you know, they get exemptions or whatever. These firefighters don't refuse to get the vaccine, and they don't have a medical exemption, or they didn't ask for a religious exemption. So, you know, I don't know. And there's more that have asked for exemptions, but that's a fiery trial for some of these people. Also, there's 27, I just read another article, there's 27 Air Force personnel that were just discharged for refusing the vaccine. So we're looking at 140 potentially 140 civil servants here, civil servants, military, that are potentially losing their job or already have lost their job because they chose not to get the vaccine. So that could be a fiery trial for them. So I pray for them to be able to just, you know, be comforted by God, and to be faithful if they feel that, say, in this situation, you know, if God told them not to, because I'm sure there's some faithful in there, even if they didn't claim a religious exemption, doesn't mean that they're not believers, right? So I pray for them to, you know, be comforted, and that they are trusting God with the decision. And I'm not saying whether or not, you know, to do it or not to do it. That's not the point here. The point is that people's faith is getting tried right now in a fiery trial because they may be following what God has told them to do. But this is real faith, right? Real faith on fire. So that reminds me of the book of Daniel in chapter 3. And it's about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These three Jews that they were taken captive by, you know, Babylon, and King Nebuchadnezzar, during the time of their captivity, King Nebuchadnezzar set up a huge statue, image of gold. And he basically told everybody in the land, basically anybody that was subject to him, needed to bow down. If you heard the music, if you heard the horns play, anywhere near, and you heard it, you needed to bow down to this image of gold. And if you didn't, you're going to get thrown into a fiery furnace. Okay? So they had this furnace set up. Well, the music played. Everybody bowed down except three guys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, the three Jews. And so, of course, the officials of Babylon went up to the king and said, "Hey, king, guess what? You know how you said that if anybody doesn't bow down, they're going to get thrown in the fire? Well, it's Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego." And the king knows these guys because they were actually higher up in the, they were officials kind of too. Daniel was a higher official, which is their friend, and then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These guys were kind of chosen by Babylon to kind of assimilate into the Babylonian culture so that they can bring other Jews in. And so, just to minimize any type of possible uprising and all that. Anyways, they get summoned to the king. The king says, "Hey, get over here. Is it true you guys aren't going to bow down? I'll tell you what, when the music plays, if you bow down and worship, then cool. But if you don't, you're going to get thrown into that fire immediately." So then what Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego said was, "King, we're not gonna bow down to you." Basically, they said in verse in chapter 3, verse 16, it says, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied to him, 'King Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it, and he will deliver us from your majesty's hand. But even if he doesn't, we want you to know, your majesty, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold that you have set up." Okay? Of course, Nebuchadnezzar is furious. So he goes to throw him in the fire. He says, "Hey, tie him up, throw him in the fire." So they tie him up, they walk him up, throw him in the fire, where the fire is so hot because they're supposed to heat it up 7 times hotter than it is. And one of the king's guards, or guys that brought, those guys up to the top of the fire there to throw him in, he burns up because it's so hot. They throw him in, all 3 guys. Well, after a little bit, they're like, "Hey," they look into the fire, and they say, "Whoa, what's going on here? Weren't there 3 men that were tied up and thrown into the fire?" And they told the king, "Yes, certainly, your majesty." Well, he goes, "Look, I see 4 men walking around unbound and unharmed, and the 4th looks like the Son of God." And so Nebuchadnezzar, the king, says, "Hey," he goes to the opening and says, "Hey, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come here." And so they come out. They're not burned. They don't smell like smoke. And everybody's like, "Whoa, what is going on?" They have no singe. Their hair's not singed. Their robes aren't scorched, and there's no smell of fire on them. So Nebuchadnezzar immediately goes, "Praise be to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and rescued his servants. They trusted in him to defy the king's command, and were willing to give up their lives rather than serve or worship any god except for their own God." And so what the king does is he decrees right there that the people of any nation or language who say anything against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be cut into pieces, and their houses be turned into piles of rubble, for no other God can save in this way. So they went through some fiery trials right there, but God was with them. That 4th person in there was Jesus, okay? The Son of God was in the fire with them, protecting them. They stayed strong, made the decision that God was telling them to do, and followed through, and God saved them. So I want to encourage you, if you're going through a fiery trial right now, and you're getting burnt, you're getting singed, or you're about to, pray to God, follow his lead, and don't worship or bow down to anybody other than God.